Why don't the Democrats, and maybe I'm wrong here, try to do a skinnier deal, if you will, get something across the finish line now? I know that there's a larger effort at play, and I understand the reasons for wanting that, but I also recognize the hardship that's out there across the country.
I think we agree on those facts. But when you look at the numbers, we did one big package at the beginning. That was important. But remember, we were in an emergency. We know a lot more about what's happening with the economy right now. And what we know is that the annualized GDP reduction, and you know this, Andrew, going to be 33% below what it was. That is not something where you say, let's get a little skinny Band-Aid and put it on it. There's no way that's what we need to do. What we need to do is make sure we're focused on some of the areas where employees don't have jobs and where businesses are going completely under. We need to make sure testing is actually testing so people don't wait 7 days in their basement to try to get the results and they're not working and then they find out, in fact, they don't have COVID. We need to help our hospitals, and we need to make sure that we've got unemployment, rental, mortgage assistance, those things. We're in a crisis. I want to focus on the day after tomorrow, which is next year, and I know that's what we'll do with Joe Biden. But for now, we must pass a deal that is not just some little skinny thing that you think you can put a Band-Aid on for a month. I'm again quoting the president. It's going to get worse before it gets better. It will get better, but let us please respond appropriately to this instead of just doing something and then going home for August.
Senator, let me just ask you about the $600 number, though, because that's obviously been a big point of contention throughout this. There are places where $600 is not enough, and we can debate whether everybody, frankly, deserves to be paid more than $600 in this country a week. That's a larger philosophical debate. And I know there are Democrats that are having that debate. But I think the question is there are also markets or areas of the country where there are people who are not necessarily going back to work because the $600 is more than they would otherwise make. What do you do about that conundrum?
Well, as we've done before, when we had the last downturn, which, by the way, Barack Obama and Joe Biden got us out of, we tapered down the federal assistance and we looked at different areas and what was happening. I think our point that right now we're not at that moment, as we're seeing spikes in rural areas, as we're seeing spikes in the South and in the West and in states that before we hadn't seen them in. But there will be a time, of course, that happens. And I understand exactly what you're talking about. That's part of the discussions that they're having right now. But I think overall, Andrew, the point is that we just can't do something small right now. We've got a big, gigantic crisis, and we need to respond in a way that makes sense. As I said, we know more now. We know that there's areas like tourism, of something I'm working on, the music venues that have been hit harder. We also know that we have to make some changes and adjust to the business program. We also know that we've got elections that are coming up, and Republican and Democratic voters have been voting in record numbers by mail. And the Republican governors and Democratic governors are asking us to respond to that and assist them in a cataclysmic change to how people vote. That's why this can't be just a little skinny Band-Aid.